The snow was still falling when I stepped out of the truck, the keys to Blackwood cabin cold in my hand. Vermont's winter wrapped around me like a thick, old quilt. Heavy, quiet, familiar. I paused on the gravel path, my boots crunching over ice, and inhaled the crisp air. This place wasn't just a retreat. It was reclamation. Inside, the warmth hit gently. Firewood from yesterday's stack, still glowing faintly in the hearth. Bishop patted in behind me, his paws silent, his breath fogging the air as he settled onto the rug, curling into the same spot he always chose. I dropped my bag at the door, pulled off gloves stiff with cold, and let out a long, slow breath. No garland, no tree, no family, just peace. For the first time in years, I had no need to fake a smile, to nod through passive comments or endure cold embraces. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was numb, hollowed out, and in that silence I found comfort. I powered off my phone. No holiday greetings to wait for. No calls to chase. No chance for guilt to sneak through the cracks. I lit a single candle on the kitchen counter, not for celebration, for closure. Locking up, I double-checked the deadbolt. Then the basement latch. Just habit. Still, something in me paused before shutting that door. I stared into the shadowed stairs a second too long. Shook it off. Have you ever chosen silence over celebration just to protect your peace? The call came just after sunset. "Marlowe," Dean Calder said, his voice static-filled. "You expecting guests?" "What?" "There are trucks outside your gate. 3. One's unloading furniture." I sprinted to the front window, and there they were. Felix Voss stepping out first, all smug posture and practice charm. Then Sienna, red coat, gloved hand waving like it meant something. Behind them, Estella and Declan, my parents. My spine stiffened. They were smiling, boxes in hand, luggage, a goddamn Christmas wreath. I didn't move. I just watched, stunned, nauseous. They walked up the path like it was theirs. Bishop growled low and deep, ears stiff, eyes locked on the movement beyond the glass. I grabbed his collar. My hand shook. I flung open the door. "What the hell are you doing here?" Felix raised a manila folder like a peace offering. "Lease agreement. Legal. We're just moving into the basement. It's all above board." Sienna leaned in. "Didn't you get the email?" I stared. "No, I didn't get an email. I didn't agree to anything." They ignored me. Felix handed me the folder. The pages were slick with cold. A notarized lease. Basement rental. My name, signature, stamped. "That wasn't my signature." "You forged this," I hissed. "It's notarized," Estella chirped, stepping up with full warmth. "We used your old social. Had it on file, sweetie." My breath caught. "I live here," I shouted. Felix waved to the movers. "Bring the bed down first. Then the desk and the kitchenette." This wasn't a visit. This was an invasion. Declan looked bored. "This place was always ours, Marlowe. We used your college fund to help buy it. That's family money." Sienna pushed past me, brushing against Bishop. He yelped and limped backward. I dropped to the floor, hands on his side, heart racing. "You hurt him." She didn't answer. I reached for the Ring doorbell to activate the camera. My thumb hovered, but the screen stayed black. Dead. I never turned it on. You ever have one of those moments where everything you thought was safe turns to smoke? I dialed the police. They came, looked at the lease, listened, then shrugged. This is a civil matter, one officer said. Not criminal. We can't intervene. I watched the flashing lights disappear down the driveway, watched the storm roll in behind them. The power flickered. Then came the cold. I tried calling Elise March. Straight to voicemail. Tried Dean. Busy. I was alone. Completely. At the front door I found an envelope already damp, dated 2 weeks prior. Notice of intent to occupy. From Estella Voss. I didn't know whether to scream or cry. Dean showed up just before nightfall, coat pulled tight, voice hushed. I saw them cut the lock. If it goes to court, I'll say it. Bishop lay curled on the floor beside the fireplace, head twitching with restless dreams. I stared at the basement door. A padlock. On the inside. Have you ever felt like the walls around you weren't your protection, but your trap? The night didn't end. It just dissolved into silence. I sat in the kitchen, one bulb flickering, my hands wrapped around an empty mug. They hadn't just taken space. They'd rewritten reality. They think this is about space, I whispered. It's about erasure. I pulled out the old folder from beneath the floorboard. Trust, March 2021. Proof. A thread. I thumbed open my phone. Typed fast. To Elise March. Subject urgent. I need help. Not tomorrow. Now. Bishop stirred at my feet. Outside, the wind screamed. They used the law to get in. I'd use the law to throw them out. I woke on the kitchen floor, half covered by Bishop's warm body and a blanket I didn't remember pulling down. My back ached. My jaw was clenched. Morning light leaked through the frosted window panes, casting the cabin in sterile silence, the kind that feels wrong. Not peaceful. Violated. I scanned the room like I didn't recognize it. There were fresh scratches near the doorframe. A pot of winter cactus lay shattered in the entryway. The notepad on the counter, mine had a frantic, looping scrawl. Cease. Trust Doc. Basement. It looked like the handwriting of someone else. Someone losing control. I pulled myself up slowly. Bishop whined, but didn't move. His limp was worse. My laptop, miraculously untouched, powered on. Password. Second layer. Encrypted drive. There it was. The trust files Elise helped me create in 2021. I opened the master folder, hands still shaking. The phone buzzed with a reply. Elise, I'll be there before noon. Bring coffee. Bring hell. That was Elise. Coffee first, then blood. I poured what was left in the pot from last night, reheated it. No cream, no sugar, just fire down my throat. I flipped through pages, matching each file to a post-it tag color-coded. Ownership proof, timeline, occupancy laws, mail tampering statutes. I was building an arsenal. Have you ever had to outthink someone who once tucked you in? Elise showed up like a lit match in a snowstorm. Sleek trench coat, no makeup, legal pad already open before she crossed the threshold. Jesus, she muttered, stepping over the broken planter. You look like you went 3 rounds with a gaslight. I handed her the file. She barely glanced before nodding. Irrevocable trust. Established 4 years ago. You're not the owner. You're the sole beneficiary. No one else can touch it without committing fraud. She flicked to the notarized lease. This? Junk. Especially if we can prove no consent. Dean arrived a few minutes later, tapping lightly. He looked like he hadn't slept either. I brought this. A USB stick. Dash cam caught some of it. Trucks pulling in. Sienna waving Elise around like a parade flag. Elise grinned just a little. We can use that. We drafted a cease and desist letter on the kitchen counter. My signature wobbled, but it landed hard on the paper. Sometimes the strongest move isn't yelling. It's sending a letter your enemy can't ignore. Then came the digital ambush. Estella's Facebook post appeared first. A photo of Bishop and me from 2 years ago. Caption: when your child forgets her roots and leaves you to age alone, Merry Christmas, I guess. Then came the whispers, local blogs, one headlined, Cabin Air Gone Rogue. Photos from my teen years. My prom dress. Me at 13. Eyes red from crying. All spun into a narrative of a strange daughter loses grip, lashes out. Elise stared at the screen. This is war. Psychological warfare. And they're not amateurs. My phone rang. Mom flashed across the screen. I answered. She sobbed before I said a word. Marlo, honey, I didn't know they were going to Felix. He's just trying to protect your father's legacy. I don't want this to come between us. I closed my eyes. I remember when you used to write little poems in the snow. You were so sensitive. Still are. She was baiting me, manipulating tone like a pianist. I almost bit. Almost. Then I heard the click, a recorder starting. I hung up. Elise was already on my laptop. They tried to upload the call. We caught it. DMCA filed. Cease distribution. Notice going out now. Have you ever realized too late someone was using your heart as a weapon? Elise didn't come alone this time. She brought Chase. Tall, camera bag slung over one shoulder. Voice calm but razor-edged. I'm Chase, investigative journalist. I used to be Elise's college roommate. He shook my hand with purpose. I covered Garrett Voss once, he said, pulling out a flash drive. When your aunt died, the original owner of this cabin, her trust was dissolved under weird conditions. Garrett's name was all over it. My jaw tightened. Chase continued. If you're willing, we expose them. Publicly. Controlled rollout. Local first, then scale. I've got contacts. I hesitated. I don't want to be the face of anything. I just want them out. He showed me data, graphs on viewer sympathy, case studies on emotional authenticity. Truth wins, but only when it's loud. We set up a basic recording rig. I faced the camera. No tears, no drama, just the story. I didn't lose my family. They sold themselves to a version of me that never existed. Would you tell your story to save yourself, knowing it might also save someone else? The trap wasn't just legal now. It was public. We drafted a plan. Legal pushback. Media timing. Rosalind Fitch, Garrett's old accountant, reached out via encrypted email. She was ready to talk. She knew about the forgery, about the money, about where the trail started to rot. Elise added her to the protective clause, anonymous but vital. As I prepared to record the final clip for upload, Bishop scratched at the door. I opened it. On the porch, a torn envelope. Inside, a note. You started this. I folded it and tucked it into my coat. Let's end it then. Tomorrow, I take back the silence they thought they owned. We planned it like we were writing the final act of a play. Elise handled the legal choreography. Chase fine-tuned the visual stagecraft, and I, the once-forgotten daughter, played hostess to my own reckoning. We called it a New Year's gathering, sent polite invitations to local zoning officials, a couple of small-town lawyers, and community liaisons. Dean Calder and Rosalind Fitch were the only ones who knew the real purpose. They were our quiet aces, eyewitness and whistleblower, each briefed, positioned. ready to speak if the script turned real. Chase installed cameras like ornaments, one tucked into a coat hook, another hidden near the fireplace mantel, and two more in the stairwell and porch light, all connected to a single feed, ready to go live. I posted casually in a neighborhood group, hosting a cozy night at Blackwood Cabin, hot cider and resolutions. The kind of bait only narcissists swallow without chewing. Felix's truck circled the road twice before New Year's Eve. Dean texted a photo of new tire marks by the tree line. They couldn't help themselves. I rehearsed in the kitchen, voice even. You said this was yours. Prove it. Bishop cocked his head. I smiled down at him. Almost showtime. Have you ever had to smile through a trap you built with your own heartbreak? The night came with a strange calm. Candles glowed. Snow framed the windows like hand-painted frosting. I wore emerald, not festive, not mourning, just a color they'd remember. Guests trickled in. City clerks, one state assessor, two off-duty police officers. Elise chatted breezily with a zoning rep. Dean stayed on the porch, sipping cider from a thermal mug, eyes always scanning. 8:44 p.m. Chase tapped his earpiece. 3 incoming. Half a mile. I nodded once. No more rehearsals. Dean sat up on the front steps, holding his phone low but angled. Roslyn quietly slipped into the pantry. Elise's pen clicked. Our signal. They didn't knock. Garrett stepped in first, eyebrows raised in a mock surprise. You said you'd be alone tonight. You said a lot of things, I replied flat. Sienna followed with bright eyes and fake warmth, gliding between guests like an old friend. Estella, dressed like it was Sunday brunch, held a basket of wine and chocolates, cooing about family tradition. Felix entered last. I saw the edge of a device clipped to his jacket, a body cam. But the irony cut deeper when he reached under his coat and mumbled, "Let's see how illegal this really is," holding a Slim Jim and glancing at the back hallway. He didn't see the red light blink on in the corner. They thought they came to catch me. Instead, they walked into a broadcast. If your abuser walked in with a smile, would you smile back or press record? The feed went live. The internet, cold and quiet, received every breath. Estella tripped, dramatically, near the drinks table. The gasp was perfectly timed. But Chase had cued in a clip from earlier, her practicing the feint on a hidden rehearsal camera. Felix, caught on the side feed, crouched behind a curtain with a crowbar. Garrett kept talking, weaving a tale of concern, mental health. A daughter they feared was losing touch. I didn't respond to him. I looked straight into the camera. They didn't come to save me. They came to take what they never earned. Elise stood and handed a folded document to the officer nearest the fireplace. Signed warrant. Unlawful entry. Possession of tools with intent. Felix barely blinked before 2 sets of hands grabbed his arms. Estella shrieked. Sienna backed away, hands raised, whispering, "This wasn't supposed to be like this." Bishop barked once, loud, sharp. I knelt beside him and stroked his fur. My eyes didn't leave Sienna's. Have you ever seen the moment someone realized they lost control over you for good? The guests left slowly, in 2s and 3s, a few shaking my hand, others just nodding in quiet respect. I didn't need their approval, but I noticed the way they looked at me, like I'd cracked something they never dared to touch. Chase was already cutting the footage. Elise flipped through her planner, murmuring about deadlines and exposure limits. Roslyn, hands tight around her purse, said she'd send over the sealed records by dawn. Documents that could make Garrett's shady dealings with my aunt's trust public knowledge. We had broken the illusion. Now we had to keep it broken. Dawn rose slow and silver. I sat on the porch with Bishop, snow piled high on either side, the scent of burnt cider still lingering in the air. Police cars vanished into the distance, their tracks winding like proof. Garrett made bail. Estella went dark online. Sienna posted a quote about sacrifices made by those who love too deeply. I didn't bother replying. A plain envelope arrived by hand. No return address. Inside, a photograph from my 18th birthday, torn in half, straight through my face. I watched the flames curl around its edges in the fireplace. "This is where it ends," I whispered.